It ends with him nodding.
Untying the knot.
All right.
Happy Sunday, and thank you for joining us for our breakdown of Bride. Today we'll be covering chapters 21 through 25. Collette, would you like to start off? There she is.
Yeah. So chapter 21 starts with Lo's thoughts. I'm sorry, I had to look at my notes real quick. Starts with Lo's thoughts. If you'd like to turn to page 253 with me. Hey, random question. You have a hardcover, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
there's nothing special about it. It's the same page number.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay. All right, so page 253, chapter 21, Lo's thoughts. She told him vampires do not dream, and yet, once her midday rest is over and the evening approaches, her sleep becomes fitful, agitated. His touch seems to comfort her, and the thoughts fill him with pride and purpose. Because he loved that girl.
He sure does.
So, we're told that Serena and Misery, when they come of age, they try to figure out what they want to bring with them when they move into like their adult apartment. They're moving out. She's 18, obviously, so her time up is up with the collateral, and even before she has time to vacate the premises, the new child from the vampire collateral has arrived at that house, which kind of it threw me because I thought they lived with other people. I didn't know it was like a compound that they all go to, like the same spot.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Because they said it was from a high-ranking family. I just, figured it'd be different people.
I am a little confused as to
how that works.
Like where she lived. Like I took it. Yeah. Well, I guess it makes sense now. But I took it as like she was in a foster home or something. But apparently she was living with
a family
high up.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like. So I'm guessing she had a nanny.
I suppose so. Yeah. It was
not that it matters because it really doesn't affect the story at all. But just side notes.
Right. So when Serena sees him, the new collateral damage. That's what I'm gonna call him. When she sees the new collateral, she asks. Serena asks, "Why are they always children?" And Misery shrugs and she explains, he would have had to been related to someone important within the vampire community, and that it's done as a deterrent to harm whoever it is as collateral. That's the only explanation, but there's no explanation as to why it's always a child.
Yeah.
And so the boy, it's a little boy that goes, he sees them and he, walks over to them or whatever. And Serena gets down to eye level and she's like, if you don't want to do this, if you want to get out of here, you just say the word. And he looks at her and he's like, it's an honor. Okay, weirdo.
And she's like, well, it seems practice because that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
When she's like, that's what I was told and that's what I repeated, but it's not how she felt.
Right. And then Misery is thinking to herself, she was like, Serena was like this. Because she was like, where were we going to take him? How was he going to get out the house? Where were we going to put him? What you talking about?
Apparently Serena always has some wild plans.
Yes. And so apparently the collateral, there's like a ceremony when they do an exchange. That's weird too. But she chose to skip that because she was like, I'm an adult now. I don't have to go. Goodbye. And then Serena complains and basically rages about it for the entire time. And then for the most part, Misery is just like apathetic. She's like, I mean, we can complain about it, but what's going to change? How is that going to help either of us? It serves no purpose. And so she's thinking of that as she's coming out of her, I don't want to say slumber, but I guess you would say slumber because she was pretty much asleep.
A slumber.
Right. And she's thinking about that, and now she's thinking, now I understand why it bothers her, because I feel like that for Anna. Like, why are you taking kids? Why are you, uprooting people's lives for this collateral so that we can agree? Why don't we just work together? Because now she has a heart.
Now she has sympathy now.
Mm-hmm. And she also involves Lo. She says, and I feel about Lo the same way. Yeah, girl, we know how you feel about Lo. And those are her first thoughts as she's waking up. Because again, like I said, she was in her slumber. And she looks for him in the room. She realizes he's not there. So she just goes downstairs looking for him. And he's in a room full of people, a lot of seconds, also some other people she doesn't know. And she realizes...
She hasn't met yet.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she realizes it's a meeting, and she sees Lo, and she's just transfixed on her man.
As would I.
That's how I took it. And then when she finally walks into the room and people realizes, that she's in the room or whatever, she's surprised that no one looks at her with disgust. I'm sorry, let's go back. She walks into the room, she sees him, they're having a meeting, and then he's in the middle of saying something, and he stops and he looks.
Because he senses her.
Yes. And then everybody turns and looks, and they see her. In my mind, she's over here. That's why I'm looking over.
So silly. I can't stand you.
I can see the door jam and everything. Like, it's over here. I don't know. So he turns and looks, and she's surprised that no one is like disgusted. It's all sides of sympathy or looks of like, she's awake, she's up, she's out and about. He's talking, and then when he realizes it's her, he then says, I'll see you later. And she's like, oh, you're right. I mean, you're in a meeting. But she then realizes he's walking to her. He's dismissing everyone else because, that's his boo. And he tells her that she's been out for 5 days and they almost came to a war. Okay. And they almost came to a war over it because they took it as an attack. But he tells her the poison that she was inhaled was toxic to Wares too. So it's unlikely that it was meant for her.
Because they're really not supposed to be eating peanut butter.
Right. Right. And then she's worried that her father knows that she likes peanut butter.
That's what she's worried about, not the war.
Like, Misery, that's where your thought went. Okay, so she's worried that her father knows that she likes peanut butter. That's her thought process. That's where she is. And then she asks about Anna, and he tells her that she's away. And she's like, well, where is she? And then she's like, nope, don't tell me. That's probably, what's the word? Classified. You don't have to tell me. And there's no hesitation. He's just like, no, she's with Cohen. Because he trusts her.
And she knows. Like, she doesn't even, she's like, he didn't have to tell me, but he did. And I know that's because he trusts me.
Yep. And then, oh, that's what I put in my notes. That's what we call trust, ladies and gentlemen. And then we're going to page 258 because, I'll be underlining stuff. Now, this one is a little bit long. I pretty much underlined both pages, 258, 259. Don't judge me. I just need you to understand the scene. Okay. So she's basically asking him, after he tells her that Anna is gone and that she's with Cohen, he's asking her, essentially what transpired in the 5 days that she's been out. So she's asking, was it Emery, the loyals? And he says, I don't know. I can't think of anyone else having a motive, let alone the resource for this. And she says, and he says, all of Emery's communications are monitored. We have found evidence that she and her people are behind the arson that happened in the spring at one of the schools in the East. But if she's behind Anna's kidnapping attempt, I see no proof of it. I'm going to move you too. He wants her to be protected. And she says, move me? And he says, to the vampires, or the humans if you prefer, Cohen is also an option. He'd keep you safe, and Anna would love to have you there, and I'd feel better knowing you two are together. And she says, Lo, this is very much not the first time someone has tried to off me, and I'm not going. I don't want to go away. We're a team, right? And what would even happen with the armistice if I left? Can't stand her.
She's so dramatic.
She puts herself in everything. And he says, it doesn't matter. Your father doesn't need to know. I can take care of everything and make sure that you're as free as. And she says, no. And she says, I don't realize how loudly I spoke until the words echo through the room. For a split second, I see the guilt and agony, Lowe's wrestling with one of his face. I'm sorry. I see the guilt and agony Lowe's wrestling with on his face. He sighs and he bends his head. I almost got you killed, Misery. You didn't. Someone else did, and we should figure out who together. He says, my job is to protect you, and I failed. It happened under my watch when I was standing inches away from you. She says, there you go. A good reason for me not to leave. In fact, you should keep me even closer. I say it a little flirtatiously. Yeah, girl, flirt with your man. And then he asks her, do you have no fucking fear? She says, no. He says, I have enough for the both of us then. So he asks, how are you? He asks after a while, voice again, once calm. The change of topic is so brusque, I'm even dizzier. Kind of gross, because only Misery. Like there should be flies buzzing around me, but maybe not because they'd stick to my skin. He said, you sweated through your sheets multiple times. A feat, since vampires barely have sweat glands. Did Dr. Avery change them? I did. Oh. Juno helped. Sometimes when I was able to let her. Once I calmed down, he wipes his hands down his face. It's hard for me. And she says, what is? And he says, to see you like that. To let anyone else touch you when you're hurt or sick or just. I didn't need that qualifier, actually. To let anyone else touch you is. I'm not sure who I can trust anymore. He don't even want other people touching her because, that's his baby. And he loves her. And then she lets him know that basically he can trust her, and that she wants to stay. And then she tells him she needs to take a shower because she's offending herself. And he picks her up, and she asks him if he's going to hose her off outside.
She's so silly.
Like, why is this your thought process, girl? Let's talk about this.
I mean, I relate to her. I get it.
And then he takes her to the bathroom. He draws a bath for her. And then when he tells her it's ready, she strips in front of him. She's butt Buddha naked. Okay. And she thinks to herself that she isn't nervous with him. Again, we established this when she was eating the peanut butter before she died. That she feels comfortable around him. So she strips and she's like, yo, I'm not nervous around him. And then he helps her into the bath and he bathes her. And she tells him she doesn't use a washcloth. Side note, what do you mean you don't use a washcloth? How do you feel clean?
Because some people just use sponges or they just use the soap on their body and scrub themselves with their hands. Some people use loofahs.
She ain't say no loofah. She ain't say no sponge. She probably used a hand. You are not clean, ma'am. I don't care what you say. Just want to go there. Okay. And then he bathes her. She tells him she doesn't use a washcloth, and he continues to bathe her with a washcloth. And she notes that he is tense, and he states he didn't initially do it, like bathe her without a washcloth, because he felt like it seemed too forward. And Misery, being a little horny person that she is like, you don't need this, and just throws away. And she basically guides his hand where she wants him to bathe her, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm.
All right. And she basically is trying to guide him to her thighs, and he was like, he stands up and starts to wash her back, and she was like, you're a coward. But she says it in a joking manner. And he kisses the back of her neck, and she whimpers. And then she asked him, because she's a random individual, how do wares have sex?
I love her. I love her.
So we're going to page 262. By the way, this was a long chapter, y'all. So I have a lot.
It really was
chapter. So
I think this is the last long chapter, though.
Yeah. So she asked him, how do were have sex? He laughed softly against my skin, but I sense an edge. Are you worried? I tip my head back. Should I be? He massages my sternum. I'm not going to hurt you. Not ever. I know. I'm not sure why I asked. I close my eyes and he takes the invitation as what it is. Because it's an invitation. A little horny bucket. Essentially, he fills her up. That's where we're going to go with that. It's a lot more descriptive, but essentially he fills her up. She finishes.
There's a lot of touching.
Yeah.
She has release.
Yes. And then he told her as well, as he's doing it, he thought of it on their wedding day. Since day one.
As soon as he saw her.
He been wanting this girl.
He said, I saw you. I wanted to make you warm. I was
like,
oh.
I was like, okay. All right, Lo.
And you looked cold in your jumpsuit.
Yeah. And then, like I said, all of those confessions come out. And then they have their very first kiss. So cute.
Pause. That's her first kiss ever.
Mm-hmm.
So, just pointing out that this woman is inexperienced in all realms.
Yes.
Of male-female interactions.
All of it. Which made a lot more sense once I established that. I was like, oh, this is why you act like this.
Yeah.
I get it now. It makes sense. Because, once the innocence is gone, you pick up on stuff. So he gives her first kiss, and then he tells her he was scared when she went limp in his arms. And then they continue on their journey of being felt up some more. And then before they can go all the way, Owen calls because he picks her up out the bathtub. He brings her to her closet. They was about to get it in.
Mm-hmm.
And then Owen calls. And he congratulates her for evading her first assassination attempt. Owen is.
I love him. In this chat, that was my one note for this chapter was I like Owen in this chapter.
Yeah.
Funny.
He is funny. He, you know what? They very much are very similar. I mean, they're twins, but they're really similar.
I just feel he's more worldly than she is.
Yes.
But yes, because he didn't have to be, like locked in,
right?
Whatever they call it, compound or whatever. He got to experience vampire life and learn the customs and all that.
Correct.
But when it comes to
the banter,
how they speak, the way they act, all of that, you can tell they're twins.
Yes. And then when Owen gets a good look at both of them, because he has like a wet shirt because she, he took her up out the tub or whatever. She just has like a towel wrapped around her, and he looks at them. He says, "You you two really are fucking, huh?" It's like, oh, you're so crass, sir. And they turn and look at one another. I guess they're trying to figure out what to tell one another.
They're like, we're not. We haven't. Like, we're not there yet.
Right. But then
are we gonna do this?
Yes. And then it turns into them looking at each other like longingly, and he was like, hey, stop eye fucking one another. That's disgusting.
In front of me. He's like, I don't want to see that.
So then he tries to tell her in the tongue. Remember, the vampires have their own language. So he tries to tell her in the tongue about Serena. And then she was like, no, you can speak English. Lo knows everything.
And we're back to the trust. Yeah. And we're back to the trust.
Yeah. And he's like, Lo knows everything. Okay. All right. And so he tells her that someone broke into Serena's apartment 3 days prior and is having other security cameras in the area checked because they knocked out the cameras in her building, so they weren't able to see. So he's trying to check the other cameras, kind of like CCTV.
Yeah. Like the surrounding cameras.
Yeah.
And he's surprised. Owen is surprised that she's trusting Lo, and that Lo is helping her because she lets him know,
Correct.
like, yeah, you could talk about it. He's helping me find her. He's like, wait a minute, what?
Yep.
So
And then Owen says to her in the tongue, I'm glad you're still with me. And she responds to him in tongue, I'm glad to still be here. And then he says to the both of them in English, whatever is happening between you two, I want you to fuck it out before people find out. And then he disconnects the call. And he disconnects the call. And that is the end of chapter 21.
that was a good one.
That was a good one.
So now we're on chapter 22. And we'll start off with Lo's words, which are very short, very cute. It says, she makes him want to draw again. That is so cute because she's inspiring his passion, and that's beautiful.
Yes.
That is so beautiful. I'm a hopeless romantic, guys. I don't think I'll ever stop believing in love.
Who am I? I'm the most thuggish romantic you'll ever meet.
You're the grumpiest romantic I will ever meet, bro.
Like Dorian, out of all of my book bays, Dorian is like my top. Like I love him. And he is a bleeding heart.
He didn't even do anything in the book yet. And you're like, I like Dorian. And I'm like, of course you would. Of course. Collette is, she's a little softy, y'all. She's soft like Charmin. Okay. Back to it. So we start off after that whole debacle with Owen, the phone call with Owen, and everything that happened with Lo, which was absolutely delicious. She wakes up. She's like, oh, I fell asleep again. She wakes up and she gets dressed and she goes downstairs. And she's like, wait, I have not fed in a long time because she still has yet to feed from when she was poisoned. So she was out for like 5 days, right? I don't remember exact number, but she was out for like 5 days. And then all that stuff happened with Lo and she still didn't feed. So she's like, wait, when was the last time I fed? And then she remembers the one time with Serena. It was like 3 days before when they moved out, that 3 days in between Serena finding her like a cheap blood distributor. I guess it was like drugs back then, like, hey, let me get a bag.
Yeah.
But anyways, she goes downstairs and she finds Lo and Alex talking, and she gets worried because she sees them like talking all hushedly and all that, if that's even a word, but whatever. And she's like, instantly, is Anna okay? Because she cares. She grew feelings because she's becoming more non-vampire. And they're like, yeah, she's fine. She's like, well, did we find any footage? Because in the previous chapters, Owen told her that they broke into Serena's apartment, and they're like, no, that they're still looking. And Alex gets a little emotional with Misery, and he was like, thank you. And he gets up and he hugs her. And she's like, I kind of miss when he was scared of me, because remember, she's not a touchy-feely person.
Right.
So he's like, thank you for what you did for Anna. And she was like, she's confused because she's like, what did I do? She's like, oh, you think I intentionally poisoned myself to save her? And he's like, she's like, I didn't intentionally do it. And he's like, no, but you would have. And he's right, because who cares? She pushes him away because she's again like, whoa, I haven't fed.
Right.
And then she remembers and she starts cursing up a storm. And they're like, oh my God, what happened? What happened? She's like, the cat, Serena's cat. Oh my God. Did he eat? Is he dead? What's going on? So she starts spazzing about the cat, and they kindly let her know that the cat is with Anna at Cohen's house and everything is all in good.
Yeah.
So after she spazzes out about the cat, he lets her know that he found it. And she's like, Serena, you found Serena? And he's like, no, but I did find the connection. And she's like, when? And he's like, oh, when you almost croaked. I stayed working on it. Because remember, they have a very back and forth you know, they
Mhm.
like to tease each other. Um, so he starts telling her the process of finding the information he had, basically all of the information through the Human Wear Bureau, or the Wear Human Bureau, was covered up, and they really had to dig. But he lets her know that the information that he went through, and it wasn't easy for him to find any information, but he was able to find a name, and it was Thomas Jalakis. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
That's what we're gonna go with.
Jalakis, Jalakas.
Mhm.
Y'all let us know. And he was human. So right now they're thinking, they're like more than positive that that's Anna's father. And then he found where Serena had emailed him, and he said, he was working there, but then now he's political and he's connected to Governor Davenport, which is the current governor for the humans.
Right.
He's about to step down because Matty Garcia was voted in as the new human governor.
Correct.
So now Davenport's all, he's all buddy buddy with Misery's dad. So there's nothing, they're just like, okay, well, then we need to question him. At this, I guess Lowe's had enough of 3 people in the room, and he just wants it to be them. And he tells Alex, hey, you did a good job. It's time to go. Bye. Peace. Toodles.
Battle.
And Alex is like, okay, looks at both of them, and he leaves. He knows, he's like, I'm no longer needed here. So they dismiss Alex, and Lo lets her know that Thomas is dead already.
Mm.
He was killed in an accident, and she's like, what? When? And he's like, 2 weeks ago. So now things are looking even fishier. So now Serena was looking into L.A. Moreland, which was, right? It was L.E. Moreland.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that that's Anna. She's looking into that stuff and all that. And the guy that she found is now dead. This causes Misery to think that Serena's dead. And Lo's he tries to make her feel better. And he's like, I don't think she's dead. Calm down. But he really doesn't know. So that's not helping the situation. From there, they come up with a plan to go and try to get invited over to Governor Davenport's house for dinner so that they can try to get some answers, find out what the connection is, what's going on, see if they can get any information. Mm-hmm. Misery lets him know he's an idiot. He's not really that smart. But yes, let's do this. Her stomach growls. And she's like, oh, wait, I'm actually starving. But I'm so attracted to you that I forgot that I was starving and my insides were eating themselves. I get it. I get it.
Mm-mm.
You've never had that?
No, my food always comes first. I can't talk for other people. Yeah. Mike knows. Mike is like, sometimes I just throw the food at you so you won't kill me.
No, I know that we get to a certain level, but like at the beginning where you're just so excited to see them and be around that. No.
My food will always come first. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You're so real for that. Like Alana says, you're real for that. The way she describes what she's feeling is my organism slowly self-cannibalizing. Again with the donut. So she's finally ready to feed. And Lo's like, just feed from me. And she's like, no, I really don't think that we should do that anymore. And she explains to him the things that Owen said, that it's not good, that they form a type of bond and that there's consequences to that. Lo's like, Misery, we are the consequences. Drink from me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Juggler right here, girl. Right here.
Misery. Stop second guessing. I'd be like, oh, you just gotta tell me once.
Okay.
She goes into a little bit of thought process about how she's never really been anybody's priority or anything like that. So, but she chooses not to live her life begrudgingly. She's not going to focus on that. She's just going to keep going. And Lo keeps urging her to drink, and she's just like, I don't know. It's gonna leave a trace. And he's like, you think I care if it leaves a trace? Just feed already, woman.
You know what you're doing.
She's still hesitating. She's still hesitating. She just doesn't know. With all the hesitation, Lo just keeps pushing. And she's like, I don't know, and starts playing with his arm. And she ends up feeding from his arm, and it's everything Lo could have asked for. He loves it. He enjoys this.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually turns them both on. Naturally, because remember she said earlier in the book that when they're hungry, they get hot hungry, meaning they start to look hotter, they start to feel sexier. And then when they feed, they have feed hot, which they're hot because they fed. So they're probably like,
yeah.
Pause though. If she's drinking green blood,
Mm-hmm.
would her flush then have a hint of green from the blood that she's no, because her blood's red.
Her blood is purple.
Purple. Damn it. Purple, red, human, green. Where that's Ali, that's different. Because I've always green blood has in the books I've read, they've always been like ogres or trolls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Holly Black did that to me. So Misery starts feeding from his wrist.
Yeah.
And she's enjoying it. He's enjoying it. He then picks her up and takes her upstairs. And she notices that his eyes are no longer human eyes, but wolf eyes. And instead of taking her to her room, he takes her to his room. And he says, I haven't changed them. I instantly go to the sheets, which is what he's talking about. But my dramatic behind goes, oh, it probably smells like other people that he's been with. No.
Oh, I didn't think none of that.
So let me go back.
No, don't go back. I didn't think none of that. That's a great thought. I didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, his sheets are dirty from before Misery got there or whatever. But no, he didn't change them because they smelled like her.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cute. He lets her know, I didn't change them in the longest time. And she's like, oh, okay. And he's like, because they smelled like you. And it was so cute. And she's like, oh, when I broke in, sorry. He's like, you don't need to be sorry. It's fine. The scent was so sweet.
She's the most apologetic person I ever met.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. Basically he sat there smelling it all the time and the smell started going away. So he's actually excited to have her in his bed again. Yeah. And he lets her know like that he's been fantasizing about her being in his bed all this time. And he's, you know, she's finally there. After he places her on the bed, he asks her if he can bite her because that's a wear thing. They do that when they're, you know, in the middle of the brown chicken, brown cow. And she's like, you let me bite you. Like, why wouldn't I? And Lo definitely turns into an alpha during this time. Like, he takes charge.
Yes, he does.
He starts nipping at her and all of that, and it's great. They mess around. I would say it's PG-13 right now. Maybe NC-17, right? So there's a lot of touching, kissing, you know, touching, rubbing, so on and so forth.
All of that.
And she gets a release. And he gets a partial release. And I say partial because of this. She's like, can we? And he was like, well, we're kind of built different. Like, we're not compatible in that sense. So I don't know that we would ever be able to have sex like that. And she's like, wait, what? And he takes her hand and he shows her. So basically, Ali took this to very animalistic nature. And when Misery touches his member and goes all the way down, she notices that he has a knot. For those of you that don't know, when dogs mate, they get stuck. A lot of people have seen dogs get stuck. They might not know why. So when a dog ejaculates, he gets a knot that
I'm
keeps him
sorry.
stuck to the
Wait.
girl.
Is that what it is? Like they
Yeah.
ejaculate, but he's scared and he's trying to back away? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Elizabeth.
He didn't want to hurt her. Well, they haven't even had it, but he's showing her like this would hurt you. And until everything's out, then it goes down and he can, a dog can pull out and go on his merry way. So he's letting her know, like, if I were to do that to you.
So is it just engorged?
It's a knot. It's like a ball. It inflates inside of the
that's a real thing. Like
yes.
No, like I understand what you're saying about the dogs, but you're saying the actual member, like it legitimately inflates and that's why
it's a part of it that inflates, not the whole thing.
Okay.
It's like a knot at the end of the base, at the base of it, not the end of the base, at the base of it. So it gets swollen and it locks in. Mm-hmm. So he's explaining, she's like, oh, I get it now. I get it.
I didn't get it. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're very welcome.
Because I was like, I don't know what he's talking about.
It's only because I've had a bajillion puppies.
Yeah. I'm glad this was your chapter because I wouldn't have been able to explain that.
I feel like I fumbled it, but whatever. I covered all of that. We do find out that Lo has been with humans, but he's never let him get to that point. And he explains to Misery why. Apparently, that's something that just happens with mates. Mm-hmm. From what I got. I think that's what he meant, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not something that if he's out there, like Collette says, hunching some other human, he gets the knot. No, the knot only comes when you're with your mate, from what I understood of the book.
Correct.
Before he starts explaining that to her, she does like, wait, you said we would have sex back at Emery's. Like, she's really like, wait a minute, no, I wanted this to happen. He's like, no, I didn't say it couldn't happen. It's just we can't do it all the way like that. They enjoy themselves until he finally has his final release. And that, my friends, is where chapter 22 ends. Right there.
Thank you for the biology lesson. Because
you're welcome. It ends with him saying her name like a prayer.
It ends with him nodding.
Untying the knot.
All right. Yo, that was such a mom joke.
Yeah.
Okay, so chapter 23. We're so old.
You did that.
That was such a mom joke. Oh God. All right. So chapter 23 starts with Lo and Misery trying to find a gift to provide to Governor Davenport. Lo was able to get an invite to dinner, and Misery's like, that was super quick. How'd you get that? He was like, I just told him I wanted to thank him for helping out with the wares and the humans. I looked it up online. Apparently, humans like to be gifted with stuff. Like, what? I hate them. So they're in this like boutique or whatever, and they are going back and forth about what they should buy and bring. And he's like, no, that's stupid. She's like, that's stupid. And she was like, then it turns passive aggressive. And then they start just legitimately bickering like, that's a dumb idea. And he's like, well, that's a dumb idea. Like, they're in couple mode right now. Eventually he was like, do you even like Governor Davenport? And she was like, no. Do you like him? He was like, no. He's like, well, what the hell does it matter? Just get him anything. Who cares? So they buy him a $300 polar bear ashtray.
I'm gonna look for one. I'm gonna see if there is a $300 polar bear ashtray.
Girl, I was like, okay. And then she asked where the pack gets money from, and he was like, we have jobs. But a lot of them but the werewolves, they have like portfolios with land and, all the rich people stuff. That. Okay, let's go with that. And then like, they're so couple oriented after their non-sex. That's what we're going to call it. That they're holding hands and they're just like touchy-feely, and even the humans are like, oh, the older human couple was passing them like a grandma and grandpa, and they were just like, oh, you guys are so cute, and they're like, oh, we're pulling it off. People think we're together. But they're very uncomfortable with one another. Like they're going with the flow at this point. I don't even think they realize they realize what they're doing. They're just very much into one another right now, which is super cute. Super cute. And then we learn that they make it to the house. They make it to Governor Davenport's house. He invites them in. He wants to know all their business. He is a gossip. Okay. We established that at the wedding. You remember he was gossiping with Misery at the wedding. Girl, let me tell you what happened. He sent his mate over to the vampire camp. You remember? It hasn't changed. They went to the house, and so, do you guys fight a lot? Do you even like one another? Are you gonna kill one another? And he was like, so then he says something to the effect of, I have to look it up. There was something that happened. Oh, please, Liz. Okay, so he says, it's so refreshing to see a were-vampire union that has not ended yet in bloodshed. And Lowe's like, the hell is you talking about? And she was like, oh, like the Aster. And he was like, what's that? And then she was like, the last one that happened. And he was like, oh, the sixth wedding, you mean? It was just revenge because the vampire husband was like really mean or abusive to the vampire bride. So that's what led to that. She was like, oh, is that what happened? We were never taught that, but he knows that's what it was. Essentially, the werewolves were pissed. Like, what are you doing? So that's why they got into it at the sixth wedding, or what they call the Aster. And so he's sitting there like, the governor's sitting there like, y'all gonna fight?
Like he wants them. He wants them to fight.
Y'all gonna fight? And he was like, no. So they go to dinner. And she essentially doesn't say anything at the dinner. Neither does the governor's wife. They don't really talk. It's just the men talking. And Misery is sitting there thinking to herself. She was like, they gave me this mushroom risotto. And she was like, I remember it's a fungus. And Serena said it's different from the fungus that she got on the bottom of her foot, but it's fungus. I was like, the things that you keep, Misery. So she's then, pushing her food around because, she doesn't eat. And she's thinking to herself, I don't understand why werewolves and humans keep throwing food at me. It's such a waste. And so finally, Lo and the governor are talking, and he was like, hey, do you know Thomas Jalakis? He was like, he was supposed to be some high official. My mom talked really highly about him. And he was like, I'm sure he did. I'm sure she did. He got around. Basically saying, he was just out here just smashing or whatever be the case. And Lowe's looking crazy like, okay. So what happened? I'd really like to get to know him, since my mom spoke so highly of him, just to see if he has any memories. He's trying to play it off like he wants to talk to him to see if he remembers anything about his mom and get those type of stories or whatever. And he was like, oh no, he died. He's dead. And he was like, oh man, how old was he? And he was like, oh, he was young. It was a car accident.
Yeah.
And then
So aloof about it.
So aloof. He was like, he was young. It was just a car accident. And then he says, to him something to the effect of, that's probably why your mom spoke so highly of him, though, because, you know, he did get around and he liked a lot of women, and that pisses Willow off. So that's when Lo goes into alpha mode and calmly gets up from his chair, walks around, picks him up by the neck, puts him against the wall. Very calm. Very calmly. Picks him up by the neck, puts him against the wall. And he was like, why'd you kill him? And he was like, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him. He kept saying I didn't kill him. And he was like, well, he's dead. I know you killed him because I can smell a lie. You know, he has that thing where he can smell lies. And he's like, I didn't kill him. He's like, I was told I had to kill him because he got into it with a journalist and he was telling the journalist about embezzling that was happening within my administration. So we had to. We had to. He kept saying we had to.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh, that was happening. And Lo was like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you. And they leave. And so as they're leaving or whatever, he's driving away. She realizes that, or actually, I'm sorry, he then tells her maybe Serena found out something about Anna and used it against Thomas Jalakis to kind of force him into giving her that story. And and so Misery is like, no, Serena would never do that. She would tell me, we're best friends. We tell each other everything. And he was like, well, you said y'all used to get into it. And then she would leave for a few days. You didn't know where she was going. And she was like, I don't care. And I'm done. Because, you know, she's an avoidant person. She does not. So she wants to avoid the argument. So she changes the topic and she's just like, you're driving away from where territory? Where are you going? And he was like, oh, we're going to go meet your brother. And she's like, Owen? He was like, do you have more than one brother?
Yes, he did.
Like, you guys. And so when they go meet up with Owen, she realizes that her brother is not alone. And who steps out of the car with Owen?
Gabby! Yeah. Finally.
And that
I've
ends
been wanting to meet her. Yes, I've been wanting to meet her. I have been. When it comes to Governor Davenport, he's portrayed as very he really, like what she said, he's very dumb. You could tell he's a puppet.
Yes.
You could tell he's a puppet. So is he bad? Yeah. But he's like naively bad. Like he's being led. Like he's dumb. He's just dumb.
Yeah.
He's just dumb.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't even. Okay. Chapter 24. We're not even going to get into Lo's words because they're really not important in this chapter. We just know that he's smitten. He's smitten. He can't live without her, basically. That's what these are. Okay. So Lo's leaning against the truck, and he's there with Misery next to him, all snuggled up, holding her hands. They're very... If they didn't want Owen to think that they were messing around, this was not a way to be leaning up against the trunk. He didn't care. Right. He wanted Owen to know. Like, yeah, I dig your sister. I love your sister. I want your sister. I need your sister. Anyway. Owen and Gabby make their way over to Lo and Misery. And Misery, of course, is taking in Gabby. She's tall, she's pretty, she has dark hair. She looks like a nice person. And she's like, oh shit, this is Lo's mate. This is who, this is Gabby. This is the girl. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't really see Lo react to Gabby the way she would think he would if that was his mate. So she's kind of like, wait a minute, this isn't... Owen takes one look at him and is like, I told y'all to fuck it out. Yeah, here we are. You obviously did not listen to me.
It's literally what he says. I told you to fuck it out.
Yeah.
Owen.
He's like, learn from me. He's like, learn from me and Gabrielle. He doesn't even call her Gabby. Learn from me and Gabrielle. We live together at the nest, but haven't developed unnecessary feelings for each other or any kind of sexual attraction. We cultivate a relationship of mild collaboration at best, severe indifference on average.
I love Owen.
Me too. Me
I love
too.
Owen.
I really do.
I don't know if she's gonna do a series. I would love to get an Owen book.
Oh my God. I would, we should like tweet her, whatever it is,
Yes.
DM, anything. Ali Hazelwood, we're
Please.
giving you a shout out right now. We want a book about Owen, and I want to know about Cohen.
We'll get into that.
Anyway. Lo says hi to Gabby. He just says, Gabby. And she says, nice to see you, Alpha. Everything okay at home? Misery notices that there's affection and respect, but nothing else. Like there's no type of other emotions. And she's like, From there, Owen takes over the conversation again, and he lets her know that they got the footage, but it's been tampered with. They really couldn't see any information. And she's like, what do you mean tampered with? He starts giving her a whole bunch of he says it's technical witchcraft. Gabby's like, jammers. Misery's like, oh wait, shit, she knows about that? Okay. And then Gabby also goes into detail about what she thinks they used, and Misery is now really impressed. She's like, oh, this girl knows. Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Gabby then talks to Misery directly, and she lets her know that Owen's the only one that's really been nice to her. People either ignore her or they're kind of rude to her, but Owen's been very nice to her, and that she's like, hey, I'm sorry about what's going on with your friend. That really sucks. So she's really throwing Misery off because she's like, wait a minute, I want to hate her, right? Because I want to be her. I want to be his mate, right? But she's really nice. And what's going on? Owen's like, ugh, emotions, how touching. Let's move on. Listen, I'm gonna take our father's seat for counsel. He's like, wait, what? He really is. Right, that's exactly how he said it. How touching.
The feelings. He's not with it at all. He's like, hey, it's too much. Come on. Let's move on.
Let's get on. I'm taking our father's seat. Let's get down to business. So he lets her know that he's going to take over his father's council seat. And he's like, I want your support. And she's like, my support? What do you mean my support? And then she calls him Cuckoo Banana's brother. He's a Cuckoo Banana's brother, thinking that her support is going to do anything. And they start going back and forth. And she's like, do you know what the punishment for high treason is? And all this stuff. He's like, look, I've already been reaching out to some people. I already have some backing. Everything is good. Mm-hmm. And she's like, wait, what do you mean? Like she starts showing she starts reacting in a way that he did not expect because it comes from emotion. He's like, wait, you're being a lot more emotional than you usually are. Are you okay? Like, are you fine? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. You're over here hatching out this crazy ass plan. You don't even know what to do, blah, 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 blah. He's like, hey, I've been planning this for 3 months now. She's like, wait, what? And he expresses to her, like, he is not okay with everything that happened to Misery. Like, he was going about it in the way he knew how to make it better, which was through the vampire customs. Like, he's like, I'm going to challenge my dad. I'm going to take his seat. I'm going to make this right. This shouldn't have happened to you. I don't want this to happen again. Then they sent you out there again. So she sees this other side of Owen because she always thought he was just okay. He was indifferent to it. It's like, whatever, right. Send my sister away. And she's like, oh shit, my brother cares about me. Aw, how cute. Yes. She says, I study him, astonished, realizing that in all the years we spent apart, as I grew and changed and built my own life, my idiot brother did too. And turned into ... not an idiot, clearly. I thought that was cute.
Yeah.
Because I love my brother. My brother is one of my rocks, and just to see that she realizes that
Yeah.
her brother is one of her rocks, I think is beautiful.
Mhm.
She's like, bro, father's gonna kill you. And he's like, yeah, you got any advice for that? They're so cute. She's like, I was gonna recommend a hearty breakfast. He's like, how unfortunate.
Lord.
Lo's hand slides to her waist and he brings her in, like, come here, baby.
Mhm.
Come here, baby. Come here, baby. And he lets Owen know, I'm not a fan of your father. And this is the blossoming of a beautiful friendship between Owen and Lo, and I'm all here for it. He takes the next few minutes and he's explaining to Misery like what's going on, the complexity of it, his, how he's gonna go. And while they're having the conversation, Lo starts talking to Gabby and he's like, hey, is there anything you need? And Misery, as any of us women would be about our men, is one ear Owen, probably at 50%, and then the other 50% and 100% of this ear is on Lo. So she's listening to the conversation. He's just asking her, hey, do you need anything? And she's like, no, I'm good. Everything, Owen's fine or whatever. And he's like, how's school? She's like, good. He's like, what are you taking? Finance? Like he couldn't remember.
Mhm.
And she explains to him what she's taking and that everything's going good. And then Owen's ready to go. And he's like, let's go, Gabby. I'm boring my sister with trivial details about who's fucking whomst among our people. I love him. I love him.
Yo, he
And
reminds me of what's the name? God, from one of the shows that we watch. What's his name? Not Klaus, the brother.
Elijah.
Elijah.
Oh, I love Elijah.
He reminds me of Elijah. Like he's well put together. He has the facts. Look, this is what it is.
Yes, very
Like,
diplomatic,
yeah,
very Elijah's my dude. I know a lot of people love Klaus.
love Klaus.
Elijah's my guy. Like you
But
look
I
at
love
him, you
Elijah
would
too.
never know that he would rip your head clean off your
They
shoulders.
are, to me, they're neck and neck.
No.
And I know it doesn't make sense to a lot of people because Klaus is so
That's for
Klaus don't
Klaus.
think about nothing. He just do it. Elijah is more premeditated.
See, and I like that.
Yes.
Because Klaus, me, the type of person I am, I would never feel secure within the relationship because you're just flying off the handle all the time. Like you're just doing, like I have no idea what to expect. Like Elijah will be like, "All right, babe," because that's how he talks to me. He's like, "All right, baby, all right, love of my life, Liz," because he won't say Elizabeth because he's not Rio. So he'd be like, "This is what I'm gonna do. I just want you to be secure. I want you to feel good about it." Oh, you good? I want you to feel good about it. Not Klaus. I need Elijah. Anyway, back to Bride. So Misery at this point is like watching them, like, okay, they didn't have a loving hello. Like maybe now when we go to leave, there's going to be some type of affection, emotion. None whatsoever. And then she really starts thinking about that whole interaction between Gabby and Lo. And she's like, he didn't even know what she was going to school for. Like, wouldn't he know that? I've seen how he is with me and I'm not his mate. So wouldn't he be more like that with his mate? So she just keeps going back and forth like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel right. And he's like, are you okay? She's like, yeah. She's like, he didn't even know what she was studying. And she's like, Lo may have a mate, but it's not Gabby. She comes to that conclusion. She's like, that's not his mate. He has one, but that's not it. And her wheels are turning, y'all. And that's how we end chapter 24.
Yes, let's go into chapter 25.
Get it.
Chapter 25. We start with Lo's thoughts. He says, he should have never told her. He made a mistake. Several, in fact.
I don't think he made any, but whatever.
So, as we just established, she has realized, come to the fact that Gabby is not his mate. And so Misery, again, isn't an avoidant person. So she doesn't want to think about it anymore. So she then turns the subject and she's just like, I used to live around here because they're driving through, human territory. And he was like, well, do you want to go visit? She was like, for what? And he was like, just to see. And she says to him, it's not very architecturally pleasing building. And he was like, it's not about the building, Misery. Like, girl. So she was like, she says, okay, let's go. So they go to her apartment or whatever. And she looks at her apartment and she's looking around at where she used to live and the lack of furniture, the lack of pictures, everything. And she's like, after a few weeks, my taste has changed. Like, it's not homey. It doesn't feel like home. It's just very bare, minimalist, basic. There's really no warmth here.
Mm-hmm.
And so she turned into Lo and she's, thinking, trying to see from his point of view. And she turns to Lo and she's just like, are you okay? Because you standing there like you in pain. What's wrong? And he was like, your set is like really powerful in here.
And she's still.
He was like, just give me a moment, let me get it together. Because her scent is just so heavily concentrated in the apartment. He's like, my God, this is amazing. But at the same time, it's overpowering. So she basically just tries to snoop and figure out, because she can't let go of the Gabby thing. So she's asked him, she asked him, are you and Gabby close? Because, he was speaking to her like regular schmegular person. There was no love lost between them. And he tells her he doesn't really know her well, that she volunteered to do the collateral. And she was like, how'd you do that? He was like, it's just, she pulled me to the side after we had the meeting and she was like, hey, I'll go ahead and volunteer myself. So she asked him, interesting. So what did I study in college? And he was like, why? Because he's leaning against the wall. She's in the kitchen. So they're just talking. And he was like, why? Because in his mind, he's like, that's the most random question ever. And then she doesn't respond. And he was like, he shrugs and he's like, all right, well, you majored in software engineering and minored in forensic sciences. I'm just saying, he know what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And then she states, Gabby is not your mate. Like, it wasn't a question. She stated it. She's like, Gabby is not your mate. And he was like, well, no. He lets her know that the stipulations of the collateral was to have someone that was in good health and they had to be related to the alpha. So that's why Gabby went to him after the meeting and was like, look, let's just tell him that I'm your mate. It's the same thing as basically being family, if not closer. And they'll buy it, which they did. Mm-hmm. And it was like, yeah, this is his mate. So they took her. Because the only relative he has is Anna. He's not about to send Anna over there.
I don't know.
That is baby sis. She's going to be here with me. So, what happens? So then after she learns that Misery just can't stay away, so she starts to make out with him because she a little horny little girl. That's where I'm going with that. And then she's essentially trying to convince him to like have sex with her. Like, we could do this.
We can figure it out. We're gonna be together forever. We can figure it out.
I don't want to hurt you. And she's like, you're not gonna hurt me.
I can handle it.
It's like, let's go. And so my notes are a little bit off because I didn't know what the knot was. So they talk about it. But now that Liz has explained it, I can revisit my notes, hopefully, so I can rewrap what I wrote. Because I was like, what is the knot? I don't understand. So yeah, he just basically tells her, look, we're not compatible because of the knot. And he asked her if she would be okay with them having sex because of the knot. And she was like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Let's go. She's all for it. And then she asked him, they hunt y'all, by the way, if you didn't pick up on that. But they didn't go all the way. Like, he doesn't fully insert. Am I explaining that properly?
He doesn't insert all the way, yeah.
Okay.
Like, he inserts up to the knot.
Yeah. So when he releases, which is, I don't even want to get into that. Anyways, after she finishes, y'all got to read that for yourself. After they finish, she asked him, do all wares have knots? And then, and he doesn't answer. He's just like, let's go home. And then she explains to him. She was like, I figured it out. She said, that only happens with your mates because I'm your mate, right? And then he's basically telling her, like, no, you misconstrued what I said. You can't be using where vernacular. Okay, this ain't that. No. He was like, I didn't mean for you to take it this far. I'm so sorry you misunderstood me. He essentially just pushes her off. Now, mind you, you just did the do. And it was like, no, we're not mates. We're not together. This is not.
I would have been heartbroken.
Yeah. And she's just like, what do you mean? And he basically is telling her, no, that's not it. We're not together. We're not mates. You can't be using weird terminology. You misconstrued what I was saying to you. He basically tried to gaslight her.
Yeah, he's like, you're attractive. I have fun with you.
Yeah.
Like,
he was like, I can enjoy the sex, girl, but no.
Don't make it something it's not.
Right. And that going forward, that they should just be apart. He was like, if that's what you're feeling, we need to be separated. Like, we can't do that.
I want to punch him. Throat punch him. I get it. But I wanted
after the fact.
Yes, because when I read this, I was like, you fucking asshole.
I was like, what is your deal? But yeah, so, and then he was like, if that's how you feel, then we can be apart. I can find you a place. You ain't got to worry about it. And then his phone rings, which basically interrupts the conversation. And Misery goes to her room and she is devastated. Like, this is baby's first heartbreak.
Mm-hmm. And then he kisses her on the forehead and she's like, oh, yeah. Wait, no. And he's like, go. And she's like, destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's how.
And that is the end of chapter 25. And we'll be back next week to end Bride.
Yes.
Like, share, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and we'll see you next Sunday.